student representative tonight from Howell High School, and very excited to have her here and hear a little bit about her. I saw a little bit of a preview of your bio today. Looked pretty impressive, so I'll let Dr. Kozlowski introduce you. Congratulations.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Lafata, members of the board, Dr. Sloan, members of our executive cabinet, patrons and guests. I have the pleasure tonight of introducing our student board representative, senior Elise Kaminsky. She is the daughter of Ron and Karen Kaminsky, who are seated in the back. We appreciate all of your efforts supporting and guiding Elise, and we're happy to have her as a student in our building. To introduce Elise, we thought that we would have a bit of fun by using some adjectives that we think best describe her. You ready? Okay. So, she's intelligent. She scored a 36 on the ACT as a junior and has a 4.81 GPA. And I probably don't need to add anything to that one, but her career goal, she's interested in building a strong foundation for future educational and career opportunities, while also developing clear morals and strength of character. She's talented. She's taking 5 advanced placement classes. She's been involved in 8 clubs and activities: swimming, chemistry club, choir, and National Honor Society. She's competitive. She loves to talk trash at Scholar Bowl, but she always backs it up with a performance, like being part of Metro Honors Choir, which apparently this weekend you have another audition, and FHHS Women's Chamber Choir that opened the state music convention last winter. And she's also a district champion state quarterfinals Scholar Bowl member of that team. So congratulations on that. I'm not going too long. She's a risk taker and a caretaker. She went to France with a group from our school. She rode horses, tried new foods, swam in the sea, made new friends, and she cares for her 2 younger brothers. Sometimes her younger one, who has a nightmare, might end up in her bed, and she becomes a security blanket. And I have a nice little picture of her caring for her brother. So, and then, last thing, she's intrepid. She's bold, fearless, and wise. She's not afraid to look silly, which is a rare trait in students as gifted as she is. She will play games and dance and do funny accents and faces with the best of them, because she knows life is all about enjoying your experiences and seeing it all, seeing everything that it has to offer, not just getting the answer right or knowing what she's supposed to do. As a principal, I am proud to share our high school with Elise. I am glad that she's there with us. I'm privileged to introduce you to our Francis Howell community and the board as our school representative tonight. Yeah, okay.
We ask our parents to please come forward, and we'll take a visit.
Well, welcome, Elise, and thank you for being here tonight. Feel free to dance, make funny faces, whatever you want to do, but you can't vote.
anal sex, same-sex marriage, masturbation, the morning after pill, and abortion. And I know that most of us are old enough here to know that these have been not considered not normal behavior for many years. Has nothing to do with religion. I was told the school board did not want to ban the book because of concerns of censorship. If someone wanted to promote a book on pedophilia and incest, surely we would say that's not appropriate in the school library. If that is not appropriate, why are books appropriate that are promoting homosexuality, oral sex, anal sex, etc.? What 10-year-old would think of oral sex or anal sex unless someone told them about it? Why does the school district want to put those images in the minds of students? What parent would want to explain oral sex or anal sex to their 10 or 11-year-old child? So why should the school do it for them? Again, why does the school district allow material that can put this image in the mind of children? This book has drawings of adults committing sex acts, pictures of children masturbating, naked men and women, lesbian couples, etc. If the school district is concerned possibly about being sued for censorship, why aren't they concerned about being sued for pornography that targets children? I would also question the motive of any organization that publishes this type of material for children. This book might explain puberty, yes, but it also promotes and encourages sexual activity that a child would not think of. It may not look like the porn that daddy watches on TV or the YouTube, but it is still porn for a 10 and 11-year-old child that the school district should not be providing. Thank you.
Richard Taylor.
Thank you, board members, for allowing me to be here this evening. I promise to be shorter than when we last visited. I just had two comments that I'd like to share this evening. First of all, I read in the newspaper recently of Dr. Sloan's announcement to retire. I want to publicly thank you for the outstanding job you've done in this community and in this school district, for the outstanding staff that you've assembled. I wish you well in your future endeavors and hope that the rest of them stay with us to get through some difficult times that we have ahead. But thank you very much for all that you've done. Secondly, I commend the board for the decision made at the last meeting to put another levy initiative on the ballot in April. I think that was the right decision. I know it will not be an easy sell. I think it will be dramatically easier than the last effort. I would offer to do anything I could to help that. And I know that that decision was not made unanimously by the board. But I urge you in the strongest possible terms to be unanimous in your support of it for the next 7 months, because without that, this levy will also not fail or will not pass. And we all know the importance of it in this school district. And I'd just like to offer one other perspective that I haven't heard yet. I know the last ballot was defeated by roughly a 2-to-1 margin. And with some difficulty, I've come to what I think was a final vote tally. And in round numbers, it was a little over 13,000 to 6,663. So round numbers, that's 2-to-1 vote. But a perspective that I haven't heard is we don't have to turn 13,000 no votes to yes votes. We have to turn 3,220. If we can turn 25% of the no votes to yes votes, this ballot initiative in April will pass. When you look at it in that perspective, it doesn't seem nearly as insurmountable as when we say we got beat 2-to-1, the sky is falling, we can't do anything about this. We can't. We only have to turn 25%. I know there's a possibility that there'll be a larger voter turnout in April than there was in August, but on a relative basis, we only have to turn 25% of those voters. Together, we can do that. Separately, it won't happen.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Linda, Amy? Amy, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lafaya and all the board. This is my first time, so I apologize that I've been sleeping kind of at the switch. I live in this district, but now I'm going to be aware and just help all of you out, hopefully. I want to thank you for all that you've done and for your dedication for the children. And we all have the same goal. We want what is best for our children. I am here with Darlene. I'm appalled at this book. I hope that I won't be the last person here standing. I'm appealing to your conscience. And we are not the enemy here. We want to help this board in what is best for our children. I cannot believe that any one of you, and I take it that all of you have seen the book. We have a hard copy of it. We know that it's just an e-book right now, just an e-book. But what I think about is, I don't even know if we use the term of coffee table books anymore. That was like an old term and where you put a 3-book out. I just want you to ask yourselves, would you put this book out on your coffee table for anyone to come by and look at and see what your children, your grandchildren are learning at taxpayers' expense? Just think about that. Are those the morals that we're wanting to teach our children? We're on the same page here. I want the best for the children. Like I say, this is the first time I've ever come and spoken to you. I should have a long time ago, perhaps, but now you've gotten my attention. So then I want you to think about this. Is this really the area that we want to go in? And I want to come alongside and help you. I don't understand how a book like this even became available. If somehow you've got the laws and regulations that has to stay on the shelf, I understand that. I understand policy. But do not let this book be a gateway book to bring other things in, another curriculum. I understand this isn't taught in the class. What is taught in the class? And we as tax-paying citizens need to know that. And I want to come alongside you to keep from falling into this hole again, because I know none of you want this controversy. So I would be willing, and other people, concerned citizens, how do we get into these committees to approve or look at the books that are available? I want to help you. I don't want to throw stones at you, but this will not help any of our children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Glenda. And then, patron comments, don't have any more. FHEA, any of the other groups want to speak tonight? We're going to motion to approve the patron comment report as presented. Motion by Ms. Ferguson, second by Mr. Lane. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, by roll call.
Ms. Coe? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
item C will be removed. Is there a second? Is there a second to remove that? By roll call?
Ms. Ferguson?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. Okay, well, I was just gonna, if you wanted a discussion, but we can go ahead and vote on the consent agenda as amended. So without item C. Is there, that's already on the floor.
Mr. Levy?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Well, and it didn't start.
No, I just had a question, that I just wanted to clarify, and I got some clarification before the meeting, but I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of my question. I asked about bringing this forward when it wasn't our meeting, and we hadn't done this before, and so I wanted to make sure that this is the way we were gonna go from now on, because there's many meetings, many places that maybe the four of us are going to be at, that aren't necessarily our meeting, and we don't post them, or we're not sure if school business will be done, or, there's lots of things that we know that we're all going to be at. And I just wanna make sure that we're going down that road, and we're gonna make sure that we do that, because there's many things I can think of that we have never posted, or we posted, but we don't vote on the minutes. So there's like two different things there, and, I was just wanted some clarification on that.
Sure. We did seek legal counsel on this, just as a matter of record, because we did post it as a meeting, and should we have a record that people understand that there were board members there and district business was discussed. And yes, our advice was that going forward, we should continue to post these meetings. We've been posting them, but we haven't always approved minutes from them, and the minutes will be some form similar to this. So if we know that there will be board members there, we will post the meeting. Sometimes things could happen where our board will show up, we may not know about it, but our intent going forward will be to have a record of these kinds of meetings, so the public knows when there may have been the opportunity for board discussion.
Satisfied? Okay. Mr. Summers?
So just for clarification, I know a lot of times in the past, for example, an MSBA regional meeting might be posted since more than 4 board members would be there. Those minutes appear,
Yes.
and if 4 board members do show up, for example, at a strategic committee meeting, will those minutes be posted and this governing body approve those?
Those minutes are, every strategic committee does post minutes from their meetings, and I am supposing they list who's in attendance.
They do, but this board has never approved those. But if four board members would show at a strategic meeting, you will approve those also?
I didn't specifically ask about those, we can check on those, but I know that we do keep minutes of those, not that the board is approving them, but we can certainly check on that.
I believe that if other board members attend and they don't participate in the meeting, they're just observing, and it's less than 4, then it's okay. But if there's 4 people there and they don't participate in the meeting, they're just observing, that's a different circumstance.
If there is a meeting and 4 board members show up, but there is no participation, we're still going to bring the minutes forward.
Okay.
If there are less than 3, we don't, or less than 4, we don't have to post the meeting. So I don't know in our strategic committees that we ever have 4 board members. I don't know that that has ever.
At the annual meeting we have,
Those meetings are posted, but we haven't.
But we haven't approved the minutes.
Have not submitted, and that's what we're saying, going forward, we will be doing that.
okay, thank you.
We need to vote on that now? carries 7-0. Best practices, Dr. Hendricks.
Dr. Williams is going to introduce our best practices.
Good evening, Board, Cabinet. This evening we are bringing together a couple of our teachers that brought a new camp to our program, summer program this year, and it was our application camp, or we call it App Camp. And so they've got some students here, and they've got some exciting things to talk about, so I'm going to introduce them, step out of the way and let them show you the things that they did. So Christina, last name? Machine. I've never gotten that right. And Carmen Kenny Hill.
Thank you. We're so glad to be here tonight to show you what the product of 5 days has created. We have several students who now have apps on the Google Play Store. We'll be sharing some of those with you tonight. I normally teach at Howell, and I teach technology and information literacy.
And I teach at Bryan Middle School, and I teach engineering by design, and this year I'm also teaching geography.
So we wanted to point out that just as all curriculum in Francis Howell is tied to the ISTE standards, so was our program this summer. So the students definitely had to be creative and innovative. It was all about critical thinking and problem solving as things came up and they had to troubleshoot on the fly. And so now our students probably know more about the programming than we do.
So our camp structure every day, we would start out with a fun activity, and we would have the students do an app review. And we're going to go more in depth on that in the next slide. But then after the app review, we would get into having the students work on their app. And we use the MIT App Inventor software, or it's a website. And they were designing Android apps. And after the first few days, we would introduce things to the students. But after that, they kind of took over, and they really got to work at their own pace. And you can see on the picture we had them working in groups. So they definitely got to interact with each other and show each other the cool things that they were making. And if they had questions, they could ask each other if one of us wasn't available. So it was pretty awesome.
Here is one of the app reviews that we did. We started off in the morning, we looked at entertaining apps, and we looked at useful apps. This was an entertaining app called Plague Inc., where you get to infect the world with a plague. And we tweeted about our opinions, so the students filled out what they liked in the green Post-its, what they thought was just okay in the yellow, and what they would change in pink. And they enjoyed playing so much that we didn't get all of the Post-its on our boards. We tweeted about how much they loved it, and the creator of the app actually tweeted us back and was so glad to have that response. We got a couple tweets back. We reviewed an app that the students didn't care for very much, and boy, did that company want to know why they did not like it.
And that was a grocery list app. So the kids were kind of like, well, I don't know how much I would use this. Well, probably not at this age, but your parents would. So when the students log on to use the MIT website, this is what they're going to see when they try to design the app. And obviously you see they have lots of options. They start off on the left side where they have all these different options of things that they can use, and they can drag it over into that center box and add different things to their app. And again, this is going to be the user interface. This is what the people who download your app, this is what they're going to see on their tablet or on their phone. And you can change everything. Then on the right-hand side, you can change your components, what they're named, what colors they are, where they're located. I mean, pretty much any way you want it to look, you can make it look that way.
Here is the programming side. So we had the design side, and now they were actually programming. This is only a small screenshot of what that app did. This particular app was kind of like the snake game, where you go and you collect the little dots and the snake grows. And so this student, you can see it was very tedious, had to program everything very specifically. And they really did get detailed. You can see a lot of loops, a lot of conditional statements. So there was a lot that went in just to creating a simple game.
So then at the end of the camp, we had the students kind of create an advertisement to kind of sell their app if they were to sell their app in real life. But we kind of had them sell the app to their classmates or to their teammates. And we have two examples. On the left, this student made a translation app, and I don't remember for sure, but I think by the end of the camp, he had it translating about 20 different languages to where it would either translate text or if you were to speak into it, it would translate it into different languages. So that was really cool. And he actually took that home and he showed his parents how to use this. And they came in on a Friday on the last day of the camp. We had the parents come in and they were really excited to be able to know how to do all this stuff too. So that was cool. And then this other one is called Rainbow Project. That student just created an app to write and draw on the screen in different colors. So it's kind of fun.
If you go to the Google Play Store right now and look up FHSD App Camp, these are the students who not only created apps, but they took the extra step to put them on the device. And they can tell you that's quite a process. It has to be approved. And so we have currently these apps, and there are more that the students chose to upload to the MIT website. So we have two students who are going to show you their apps. We have Paige Fan, who's going to show you her Dream Journal app, and then her brother Josh Fan is going to show you his Find My Car app. So both of these are more in the useful app instead of just entertainment.
So to turn on these tablets, if you open it up, there is kind of under the right hand, the top right hand corner, there's a button. It's a little under the thing that holds the tablet in, and that'll wake it up. Yes, and it's a little hidden. Yep, and then swipe it up to wake it up. There we go.
My app is the Dream Journal that helps you keep track of your dreams. The reason why I made this app is because I saw somewhere that you forget a lot of your dreams after waking up. So with this, you can keep track of your dreams, and then if you have a bunch of crazy dreams, you can make it all into one big story. So if you have a crazy dream and you want to tell your friend but you forget, you can use this.
I made a Find My Car app where you can track where your car is after you've parked somewhere, like maybe you go to a baseball game
starting everything from scratch, and this is something that's completely new to us. Getting something up and going at elementary where all the kids are anxious and unhappy on their first day is one thing, but middle school and writing applications is a whole other challenge, so they did a fantastic job on our first year. We certainly learned some things, and we'll do some things a little differently next year as well, but they did a fantastic job just kind of putting a sketchy vision going into the summer into day in, day out activities with those middle school students. So thanks to both of them, not only for coming tonight, but for executing a great plan this summer.
Very good, thank you. Purchases over $7,500, board, I entertain a motion to approve purchase over $7,500 is submitted. Motion by Ms. Pope, second by Ms. McMoy to approve purchase over $7,500. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. LaFava?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next item is legal services contract. Board, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Ms. Spice, second by Mr. Lang to approve the legal services contract as presented. During discussion on this item? None by roll call?
Mr. Lang?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8C, insurance update. Mr. Supple?
Thank you, Mr. McCollum. What I'd like to share with the board briefly, of course, you have the report that you had an opportunity to study, but a couple big things, takeaways would be, one, insurance costs for our medical and pharmacy benefit are becoming an increasingly large part of our overall budget. And as we continue to grapple with rapidly rising costs in various areas, we're implementing some plans to help contain that as much as possible, and we've had some success in that regard, and some of that is reflected in the proposal, in the report that you see tonight. But we are fighting an uphill battle, I guess is what I'm trying to share with you, because we've been able to achieve a decrease in the cost of our non-specialty medications, 15.5% decrease, that's tremendous. But when you counter that with a 55% increase in our specialty meds, and that specialty meds are going to account for 50% of our total pharmacy spend in a very short period of time, and there's an ever-increasing number of specialty medications being introduced to the market, and we have no control over the pricing of medications, it becomes an increasingly difficult task to effectively manage your program. We have done some clinical cost containment strategies. One of the programs showed, our prior authorization plan has saved some $92,000 in the past year, step therapy $131,000, drug quantity management $33,000, for a total of $258,000. So we're doing the right things to control our costs. But when you see that 1.4% of your plan members are driving close to 50% of your costs, it becomes difficult to affect any substantial change, because it's such a small population that's driving such a large number. It becomes difficult to really affect that. So just know that we are continuing to work on it very diligently. We've got a great consultant who's working with us to find new and creative solutions. We have very good conversations with our insurance committee about things that we can do differently, and they've been very open and receptive to the changes that we have introduced. But because it is such a large line item and an ever-increasing line item in the budget, I just wanted to highlight it, and we'll be bringing periodic reports to the board just so that you can kind of keep track of it. So that the first you hear about the changes that are impacting our plan costs are not when we bring our recommendations in June. But you have some grounding before that as to what's impacting it, so it wouldn't be a surprise to you, either the changes that we're recommending or the premium increases that are necessitated by cost factors.
Is there any questions for it this time? Information on this, or? Thank you, Kevin. Item D, construction change order. This is a change order and exchange us, which is placed on the wet fields.
Do we have a motion? So the recommended motion is to approve the change order, construction change order to land construction as presented.
Right, but,
You want me to?
well, I guess I want to hear about a change order before we put a motion.
Okay, sure. As you know, we had quite a bit of wet weather and consistently wet weather through the spring and summer this year. Part of the field renovations involved removing old fence posts and portions of the fencing. And some of those posts are buried deep in the ground with, concrete piering, and it takes heavy equipment to move those. And we didn't have, in order to try to move the project forward, we kept waiting for things to dry out. But the situation was we'd have a couple days and then it would rain again, and we'd have, some dry weather, and then it would rain for several days. And so we never really got to a point where the ground was really dried out. As a result, when that heavy equipment that was required to remove those fence posts from the ground were introduced onto the field, they left behind some large rutting, and in order to restore the field to as a proper playing surface, we're going to have to do some extensive laser grading and so forth. It's an unfortunate situation, really driven by an attempt to keep with our schedule so that we could get those fields, that work finished in time so that they'd be available for play, both for the softball season and then for the baseball season in the spring. And so we didn't have the luxury of just waiting and waiting and waiting until the ground was dry enough to sustain the weight of that equipment. We knew we were going to have some fixing up to do at the end of it. And so this is the work that's required to return the field to a proper playing surface.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the change order. Motion by Ms. McAvoy, second by Mr. Summer, approve the change order.
I understand the district is trying to still talk about cost sharing arrangements with the repair work. Would this come from the operating fund or the bond fund?
This will come from the bond fund.
There's still 40,000 left?
Yes.
And what are those negotiations, and what do we anticipate? I mean, I guess it was, we wanted the work done, but we certainly didn't anticipate payments for our fields as well, so. There's some things you just can't rush in construction, and you just have to halt it at some point, so.
I would say that the alternatives that we were faced with would have been rescheduling a number of games to some other location and then providing, additional transportation to get there. And so what is where do you have your break-even point in terms of disrupting a sport and losing home field advantage for a season, so forth. So I will say that in terms of the negotiations, we certainly are finalized there, but Jeremy Butler is the one who's acting on the district's behalf. And if you can think back to his protective attitude towards the school district during the major construction projects that we had earlier, I'm sure that we will make sure that we are properly protected. There's clearly some liability on both sides. The damage was caused by the contractor. I think there's liability there. At the same time, we as the owner were directing them to do that work so that we can keep with our schedule.
Because they carry insurance for this type of work. I mean, they carry, some sort of bond and
Yes.
insurance, and so, I mean, they'd have to file a claim, but, it certainly is not, it should not fall all on us because they made the decision to go out there. We didn't tell you to go out and damage it. They want the work done, but, sometimes you can't push construction to get a project done if you're gonna tear things up, so, we did have a lot of rain, that's for sure, it didn't stop, so.
Just clarification, did they make the decision to bring the equipment onto the field, or was it a joint decision with us based on scheduling? Was it a surprise afterwards, or did we participate in the decision to move forward?
Well, we participated in the decision. They certainly were in charge of the schedule. There's probably an argument that could be made that, was it when you began to see the type of ruts that were being left and the equipment moved, should I have continued along in the work at that point, or sought additional clarification? And I think that would be our point of discussion with the contractor.
Yeah, too, like Renee, I mean, if you run out there and you got a rut, you should stop at some point.
That's just what I was gonna say. I guess they didn't think about coming around behind the fence line instead of driving through the playing field. I was just thinking about it.
What was the total cost of this project?
$500,000.
Okay. So it's a 5% change order, or, it's significant. What was their contingency in this budget?
Well, we always build in some allowance for unforeseen events.
Motion on the floor, board, any more discussion? You just do the best you can on the recovery. Roll call.
Mr. Summer?
Aye.
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 None, all change orders. Uh, 2016-2017 budget reduction list. Board, I requested have this put on the agenda again, just to provide some guidance for staffing for the 2016-2017 school year. Regardless of what we pass in April, we still have work to do to staff up for next year, and that process should have already begun. We put this list out. This is a cut list that we talked about in the event we didn't have additional revenues, and just out of respect for our staff and the employees that do the work, I think we have to make a decision to begin this process as outlined that the staff has recommended, to at least allow them to get the work done for next year. And these items are significant. They offer a broad spectrum of cuts throughout our school district, reduces transportation among other things. But we have to begin that process to allow them to do the work. And I'm just administration to begin that process, to begin preparing for next year with our current revenue stream that we have available to us. I put this on there because it's part of the process in which they have to prepare for next year and begin to make some decisions, and just open it up for discussion.
Mr. LaFond, I need a motion to remove from the table. Is it
Oh, it's
table
on the
item?
table.
We need to remove from the table for discussion.
Okay, gotcha. I'll entertain a motion to remove this from the table to begin discussion. Thank you for that, those on the table. Motion by Ms. Spice, second by Mr. Lang. I'll entertain discussion.
Dr. Weiss?
No, we don't have, we have a motion to take it off the table. Gotcha. We have a table between items around here. Good, Liz.
She said aye. Aye.
Our table's been empty for 15 years. Finally got an item on there. So I didn't have a suggested motion. I just thought I would open this item up for discussion so that they can begin their process. And Ms. Dr. Sloman, do you?
Yeah, I just wanted, we did revise the list, and I want to make sure that the board had opportunity to look at the revised list. And big things that were revised were PAT was removed, activities, there was an adjustment to that, curriculum was removed, or was it adjusted, Mary, was removed. And then we did add some additional days back in for some of our staff to have additional days. We also added in those descriptors to make it more clear for people who may not be familiar with some of the terminology. But I think the one thing that we do need to clarify as we make a decision about this list tonight will be that we have added, included in this list, the reduction of transportation for students who live less than 3.5 miles. But as we talk about activities, I guess we're not providing transportation to school, we'll not be providing transportation for activities. Is that, we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about that.
So these are the items that
work with prior to the tax levy. So if it passes, of course, we can readjust that. But this is so we have something set in stone of what we can, or what's gonna happen, or possibilities that could happen if it fails, in order to balance the budget.
That's correct. I mean, the reason for bringing this forward is so they can start begin preparing the budget for next year and preparing for staffing for next year. It's part of our process that we start going through for budgeting purposes. The revenues that we currently have cannot sustain the balances that we'd like to have. Therefore, we have to begin to make arrangements to begin that process. And I understand that the second item on this agenda is to talk about a ballot issue. And first and foremost, I think that you have to begin the process of preparation on what the reductions are going to be, so you can prepare for next year. We can't prepare for next year starting April, the election date, April 7th. We can make adjustments to that at that point, but we still have to begin a budget process that takes a look at our current revenue stream. And we can't just ignore the revenue stream that we currently have. So this is for consideration, budgeting purposes, not official cuts, but just to give these guys the latitude to begin that model so that we can prepare the budget for next year.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, to be fiscally responsible, to have a plan in place.
Right. Fiscal?
So one of the concerns that I have with the recommended list is right now we're estimating cutting over $11.5 million out of next year's budget to get to a balanced budget. I think in our history, we've been conservative in our estimates on our revenue stream as well as our expenditures. So I'm concerned if we would approve something like over $8.5 million, we're actually going to come in with a surplus. So I don't know that I'm comfortable with this dollar amount on what our history has been with our estimates. The second thing that I'm concerned about is I feel that we have been having kind of pot shot conversations, tax increase, cuts, staff reduction, and I am looking for our board to have a consolidated plan, a consolidated consensus. So doing these little bits and pieces is of concern to me. I feel that we don't have a complete strategy about how we're going to address our future. So that's the tax increase, that's the amount, that's the cuts, and I respect the need to get moving on our staffing plan. I absolutely do. So that is a concern of mine as well. So I'm trying to balance my need for a strategy for us to go forward, a complete strategy, and the emergent need. So that's kind of where I'm struggling.
Ms. Weiss?
I can't speak for everybody up here, but I can speak for myself to say this is a very unpleasant conversation. Nobody wants to have it, but it's where we're at. And I just want to reiterate what Chad asked about. This is a place to start, but should the levy pass, we would automatically go back to this list and reconsider. So based upon that, I feel like, number one, we asked our executive folks to do this, and they have worked on it, so I believe that they probably have been strategic about it, and I'm not sure that I want to be the one questioning that. We will as a board in work sessions and everything else, but they're the ones that do this work, they're the ones that know where the cuts really are going to be the most effective, and that's why we hired the superintendent and so on and so forth. So they've done the transportation piece, which nobody wants to do, if the levy were to pass, what would the timeline be for us to say yes, no, whatever? I mean, if the levy passes in April, then we obviously know we can add something back to this list, if not everything. Would you have to start, because I know that's a major preparation, a major planning situation. Would that be too late to bring it back, or wait until you start planning? I mean, is April an okay timeline for that?
Well, we have a couple of big, we have tax levy on there yet, to be decided, so I think the amount of that is gonna make a difference. Whatever that amount is determined to be, if that's the direction that the board goes, then we will build a staffing plan based on, the idea that that will pass, so we'll move forward with 2 staffing plans. That one, assuming no new revenue, would be something like this, if we're gonna make all the cuts at one time, and we'll make another staffing plan that will pass.
So
April will not be ideal.
Okay, but let me make sure I understand. So April is kind of late to start that planning, or?
We'll plan before that. We will.
But, okay.
Whenever we decide that there's going to be an amount, let's say the amount is 50 cents,
Mhm.
and we'll build a plan based on the addition of 50 cents. And what would that generate, and how would that affect how would that affect this list? I think we'll have to make a determination about, we're gonna staff it, we're gonna reduce less people, or we're gonna continue to have transportation cut. That'll be a decision that we'll have to make once you make that decision.
Right.
So the timeline is somewhat dependent upon the last item in this section of the agenda, which is a decision about second semester. If we were to discontinue transportation for the second semester of this year, a successful levy in April would not allow us enough time to ramp up that program for starting transportation in August of 2016. It would be January 2017 if we were going to restore it. Because the company will have been, they will not have been providing service to us for 4 months. And so buses and drivers will have been dispersed to other places, and it's not feasible to ramp that back up between, April, May, and June to go get that program in place. So it's somewhat, if we keep transportation second semester and we have a levy in April and it's successful, and the board's decision is that preserving transportation would be something that they want to do now that we have that new information, then having transportation in place as it is now in August would be pretty seamless. If we don't have transportation second semester and we're successful in April, it probably would be January of 17 at the earliest that we can restore transportation. So these pieces all fit together. And it would somewhat depend upon what the levy amount is, and once we know what the levy amount is, we'd have to determine within this list of cuts, what would I want to restore first? A series of small things, or one big thing, or do something that's not even on that list? So, I hope I tried to clarify, I hope I did.
So since we still do have transportation in the spring, at this current time, April, making a decision about bringing it back or keeping it off it wouldn't be hard to do that in April.
That's correct.
Okay. And do we have any, and again, do we gain any more information between now and April about what our state situation is that would help at all?
I feel comfortable saying that we aren't going to get any significant influx of new revenue. My main concern is that if the formula were rewritten, we have no way of anticipating it this time, and we won't have any way of anticipating what that might look like until we get further into the legislative session. It would not be possible for us to reasonably build a budget or a staffing plan based on a possible outcome. I best case scenario will be flat in terms of our state revenue, and probably is as much, maybe a 50-50 shot that we could be seeing less state revenue.
And would I be correct in, I just wanna make sure that these are in ranked order as to the low-hanging fruit versus the things that we really, I mean, we don't wanna do any of it, I know that, but.
We put them in dollar value order specifically to avoid a prioritized list. We had earlier presented to the board prioritization, grouping them in groups 1, 2, and 3, or some semblance of that. This is just presented in dollar value order, so it isn't that the line number 1 is the first thing to go, line number 20 would be the last thing to go. That it shouldn't be construed to represent that.
So we could still make plans for it all to go, or it would all happen, and yet, okay, she talked about comprehensive, is there a comprehensive plan that, or would that be something that we would discuss in work session, that given the amount that we have and the amounts available, then we make the selection of what stays and what goes between now, or, I'm sorry, after the April election?
I would say that if we had a levy that was successful in April and the board gave us direction to restore particularly dollar value, then I believe the executive cabinet in consultation with our building administrators would bring back a recommendation to the board as to what of this or some other items not yet considered would be how we would spend any additional money that might be available to us.
And there would still be time to make those changes at the time of the election.
Well, I think the question is, if we cut transportation, if we make the decision to cut transportation, we make that decision now, everybody, our student thinks as of tonight, we're not gonna have transportation next year, they begin to make plans. We make the ballot issue passes, will we have time to go back and revisit that decision and have transportation for second semester? I would say yes.
Okay.
Well,
you're
really
saying-
transportation's never ceased
Right.
at that point.
Right, it's never ceased.
But they will, I would imagine, begin to make some plans that will go away. I don't think
Somewhat of a
discussion-
contingent,
Yes.
I mean, I know we hate that word, but.
And please, I'm trying to provide information, and I don't want to in any way indicate a preference or try to sway the board's decision. But as long as First Division is still physically here with buses and drivers, maintaining it is easier.
Right.
They have a vested interest in maintaining us as a client. And as they are making contingency plans, as we have made contingency plans, I'm sure that I feel comfortable having had conversations with executives of First Student as well as our local management. They have a desire to remain here and would be very happy to scrap their contingency plans if they were able to retain serving Francis Howell School District.
Okay, so this is just a
reduction in service,
Right.
because then those decisions have already been made to disperse equipment and drivers elsewhere.
So I'm viewing this as this is just a prudent plan in case. We start planning, just it's in our back pocket plan in case the levy doesn't pass, but there's still time to revisit this if it does. Okay, thank you.
I think if you look at this list as well, if you look down, and if you look at the new list items are numbered, and if you look, transportation of the 11.9 million, transportation is 5, the staff reductions are 3, 4, 5, so all the other stuff together is nominal in comparison to those last 3 items that are on there. So those are the things that are gonna be the things that we're going to wanna revisit, so.
Right.
If I can just speak to the staffing piece of this, this is a plan if there's no new money. And if we can come to a decision about what the new money might be, in other words, an amount for is us an opportunity to have staffing plan A and staffing plan B. So if we get no new money or if we get X amount of new money. And so that's what I would plan to bring to the board both in December for a work session and in January as we vote on it is have no new X amount of new.
And it's allocated based on this list. So basically what we're doing tonight is we're giving you the direction to begin the process of balancing the budget. And whether it's 11 million, 9 million, whatever the number is, you bring us a balanced budget based on money, no revenue, or new revenue. So and this just allows you to get your work done. And I do not want to hold that up. That's a big burden. Two staffing plans is going to be difficult because you're talking about different buildings. And I just don't think it's fair that we continue to ponder a cut list that you guys have provided us so that you guys can begin the school district with a balanced budget. So,
Mr. You made an important point that I want to make sure I have a chance to share with the board. We will continue to refine our financial position. And our goal, of course, will be to preserve as many staff positions as possible. And so if we believe that the situation is such that we're actually not going to have an $11.8 million deficit, that we will structure our decision-making within the context of this list to fine-tune it to what we really think it's going to be, so that we don't end up, to Mrs. Coates' point, cutting $11 million and really only needing to cut 9, and then having a $2 million surplus, but having displaced a number of staff members that we could have retained. So it becomes a little bit difficult because at the time the decisions are made, we still don't have a completely clear crystal ball, but we will continue to work on that and make our best effort.
Ms. McAvoy?
I want to reiterate, especially to board members right now, I think the discussion we really need to have is about where do we want to be in terms of dollar amount and percentage of fund balance left. And that's what we have not had a discussion of as a board. I believe it was directed by, not us as a board, because we didn't vote on it, but it was directed that we should have a balanced budget. 6 years I've been on the board, we've never had a balanced budget, and that seems to be okay with everybody. So we spent our fund balance and spent our fund balance, and now all of a sudden it has to be 0, 0, 0. And I just think we need to be very careful about that. We need to look at our percentages. We need to figure out what percentage do we want to be at, where are we going to be at, and we need to stop looking at a list. Because as they just talked about, that list can change. I don't want to look at a list, I want to look at a dollar amount. How much do we think is reasonable to cut for next year? If we need to cut more, I think we can add some more. We still have lots of things to go through this year before we need to make a decision to cut all 12 million. I think we can come up with a decision to cut 5, 6 million and start that ball rolling. But I think there's some things that if we see that better things are looking ahead or whatever, I think the bus thing needs to wait. I'm afraid that if it shows that we have cut buses on this paper, then what are people going to say if all of a sudden we pass a tax levy? And I just want to be careful. I know you said that we would still have buses, so they haven't really been cut. But I'm leery about if we say we're cutting buses and then we don't cut buses. I think we need to make sure that that contingency is very careful. And then remember, if it is contingent and it doesn't pass, what we have to do to get that busing back. And then if I just heard correctly, it's busing for everything. So how are we, is it going to be pay to play now? Are we going to have to pay buses to take our football players, like families, to take football sitting down on that floor with all of us really talking about that dollar amount. And what does the dollar amount look like? What can we suffice? I did not ask our superintendent to come back to me with a balanced budget of 0. I did not. I don't think that's where we need to be. I think we need to come close to it, but I think I think not cutting all of this is okay. Now, I'm not saying that in a good sense, okay. I agree with Ms. Coe. There's a lot of things flying around, and we have not sat down to find out if this is gonna be okay. So what does cutting $12 million really look like? Because that number has changed now since the last time that we saw all of our numbers out. We don't have that here tonight.
What $12 million are you talking about? What has changed?
Well, it went from 13.
That was the adjustment in transportation.
Right, I know that, but I'm just saying now we're looking at 11.8 million. So that's a difference in change. So
That was the number we talked about in the last time.
we did not talk about 13.9 million last time.
Early on, we provided a list very similar to this. That was at about $11.9 million. And then we were able to fine tune the transportation, and we added that $2 million in, which led that cut list at 13.9. But we've both gone back now, really kept all of the transportation and taken out some of the other things, so we're back at 11.9, which is consistent with what the projection shows would be our anticipated deficit next year.
So that,
It's just.
well, and that's my thing. This has gotten to where, okay, now, where are we really? Like, I would really like to see this flat on paper, up on screens, something so that we can really, as a board, talk about that dollar amount. And what does it look like, and what are we okay with? And that's what we direct you to do. That's our policy. That's our job as a board, is setting policy. And what does our policy say? And where are we going to be at? And are we okay with that? It is not talking about this list. I mean, I would love to say, you know, we're talking about busing. I'd like to talk about some other stuff on there, but I'm not gonna bring it up because some of it's personal issues for me and I can't look at it that way. But I bring up busing because I'm very worried about what we have to do as a school district to get it back. So, it's not about a list, it is about a dollar amount. So then we can, I think, give to you, Dr. Sloan and Steve and everybody, to where to go from here.
If we look, were you done, Ms. McAvoy?
For,
Yeah.
go right ahead.
I wanted, this was at the, I think it was August 17th, is that a meeting? Anyway, that list on page 4, those multiple scenarios that we produced there, this one on page 4 says no reductions in FY16, which is a decision that we made. So the projected ending balance for FY16 is 15.9%. So right now, it's too early to know what is the variation of that going to be. So right now, we're going to move forward as if that's, you know, we're living in that world right now. And, you know, that will be adjusted as we move along. But if you look at FY17, which is the one we're talking about right now, the ending percentage balance is 9.2. And so the deficit that we're talking about, 11.8, is that number that's reflected there. So I don't, we try to understand that we're trying to meet a balanced budget. That's where we came up with the $11.8 million, was the direction of the board to come up with cuts that we could get to a balanced budget. So
It
that
supports
was one
supports the
scenario.
policy that we have in place at 15%.
And I understand that. But just as in the past, we have changed that.
Correct.
And that's the discussion that I believe the board needs to have. My opinion on it. Because of all of the issues that, the balls that we are juggling. And we haven't come down to what number. And I don't want to talk about the stuff on the list. It is about a number, so people can understand that.
hang on just a moment. I wanna follow you, I wanna understand you, okay? You said you don't wanna talk about, you wanna talk about the nitty gritty, but then you only wanna talk about the now, okay? This is the nitty gritty.
Well, I'm talking
If
about,
we
there's
wanna
other
talk about a
things down
15
the road that I'm talking about.
If we wanna talk about a 15% balance maintained, then that's what we give the administration the latitude to provide to us, because they're the professionals, they're the ones that make the recommendations, they have to educate the kids. And I don't wanna sit down and talk about the nitty gritty of each one of these items. What I wanna talk about is how do we continue as a school district with the revenues that we currently have? That is the job of the board. Their job is to talk about the nitty gritty and bring to us how are we gonna educate kids on the current revenue stream. A work session, in my opinion, will be more wasted time. That's why I brought this back. I brought this back because we're getting to a point where we need to let these people do their job with the current revenue stream. This list is what we've asked for. They provided it to us. We just need to allow them to do their work, and whatever happens in April, we revisit. But it's not a decision right now because we have no approval of a levy. So I do not want to continue to talk about everyone's opinion about the nitty gritty. The nitty gritty is not my concern. What's my concern is to give these people the latitude to educate the kids on the current revenue stream and stay with board policy. And board policy says 15% fund balances. Until that changes, that's what it is.
The nitty gritty is talking about the tax levy. The nitty gritty is, why is transportation back on the meeting for today when we passed it already? That's the nitty gritty that I'm talking about.
Because someone requested that other than me.
So that is what I'm talking about. We do not have very good discussions up here like this. We have better discussions down on the floor when we're talking to each other as individuals and trying to figure out where the school district is gonna go.
Mr. Lane?
I just wanted to say, one of my main goals when taking the seat in April was to have a plan in place to balance the budget. I don't want to cut anything, but I really feel that we have to have a solid plan in place according to our current financial, status. By having this list, it's not looking at each item, but having the balanced budget and being able to, work when if the tax levy passes, readjusting it. But to be fiscally responsible, you have to have a plan in place to bring, or at least that's my objective, is to have work on getting the budget balanced. That's speaking for me personally.
Mr. Summer?
Thank you. I think once again as a board, we're trying to put the cart in front of the horse. For the relatively new board members, as you can probably imagine, this is outside the normal discussions that we have many times. As a board, we receive from administration their anticipated personnel staffing and the budget for the next fiscal year based upon anticipated revenues. And I think that's what administration needs to do. They do ask for opinions of the board, but we don't typically, on most years, vote on which particular items administration is going to cut. And I think this list is going to look completely different. And I'm just going to hypothetically throw out some numbers here. I'm not hiding any of these numbers, but if hypothetically 10% levy is brought forward in April, this list will look much different than a 90% levy is brought forward again next April. And as Ms. Cope said, I agree 100%. It seems as a board we're kind of hitting and missing. We really don't have any strategies. We don't have a comprehensive plan as far as what we need to do, but I think we just need to have administration come forward with the staffing levels and with the budget based upon anticipated current revenues. And then after the board has had these in-depth conversations between now and time in January, then we can come forward as
I think I might be going out on a limb here, so please stop me if I'm not appropriate or that I'm saying something I shouldn't say. Please stop me before I get there. Okay. One of the presentations we had today though was about the insurance cost rate. We've talked about we're going to be entering negotiations, and it's my understanding that we've never entered that place thinking about what we might get. It's always about what we have. I just want to make that point.
Let me make a point. I don't want us to leave here without direction tonight on what is the work that lies ahead. So I want to, hopefully we can get to that before we leave tonight. I think the question that's before us is, for our work, is, in preparation of the staffing, and the big elephant in the room about the money is the busing. And if we are going, we need to know if we're going to build a staffing plan, no new revenue assumptions, we can do that. But if we're going to have busing, if we're going to provide busing, then we're going to have to cut some additional staff. And so that's the direction that we really need, because we can move forward if we know that, if we can plan that we're going to have busing until something else happens or we're not. That's the decision that we need to have in order to build a staffing plan, because the rest of it we can work with and make some adjustments, and we can make some adjustments to staffing. But at the last minute to make a change of the transportation reduction would be very difficult to do. That makes sense.
School.
I'd like to make a motion.
Well, is there any motion on the floor?
I'd like an amendment to the motion. What was the original motion? Sorry.
Read back the original motion.
Motion was to consider the budget reduction list for 2016-17 school year for consideration for the administration to move forward with preparation of the 26-17 school year budget.
So I would like to amend the motion to read, help me as I stumble through this, that the administration should continue with budget plans, anticipating no additional revenue and staffing plans as such.
Second.
I want to share two things. First of all, I would reiterate what Dr. Sloan shared with the board, and I think in prior years, the direction that you just gave us would have been sufficient.
Does the
Problem
busing
is there's
have to
been
be a
more-
second motion? I'm assuming the busing has to be a second motion. No?
It would be difficult for us as the administration to just on our own bring forward a recommendation to cease transportation in the school district. And because it's such a large number, I think we really need to have direction from the board of what we're going to do, because if it'll have a substantial impact on what type of staffing recommendation we make, whether or not that happens, and whether or not we are required to balance the budget. And so I would offer that. And secondly, as we're having these conversations, I just would, because it's been a while between this last time we had an opportunity to discuss this, just a reminder about the information that we shared with the board previously, which is that history is back in the 70s, an election was held to provide transportation for students who live less than a mile. And so that has been our practice. If the board chooses to reduce transportation, then at the time that they restore transportation, our understanding from legal counsel is that it could not be restored to students who live less than a mile, without there being a separate vote of the people to again approve transportation of students less than a mile. That's our understanding from legal counsel. So I just think it's important that we bring that back out so that you have the information before you as you're making those decisions.
So if we make a motion to move forward with the anticipation of no additional revenue and the anticipation of eliminating bus transportation for the next school year, combine those together. If that motion is made, does that give us legal responsibility to put the vote for the less than 1 mile on the ballot? So if we make the motion now, and if the tax levy passes in April, so we don't have to make that additional cut, do we have a legal responsibility from that statute? Or because we never actually cut it, are we still okay? Do we know the answer to that?
Once the transportation system as it's currently configured ceases to operate, to restore it to its current configuration, which would include transportation of students less than 1 mile, my understanding from legal counsel would require a separate vote.
But if it doesn't cease, because the tax levy would pass, and we chose.
If it's a budgetary consideration, and we bring a budget, but we never actually stopped it, then after that would not trigger, it's actual ceasing, and so let's say that we don't have it second semester of this year, and we're able to bring it back in August, bringing it back in August would be for students a mile or greater from school, but not less than a mile. That would require a vote.
Can I have you read back the very first motion one more time?
The motion was to consider the budget resolution list for the 26-17 school year for consideration for the administration to move forward with preparation of the 2016-2017 school year budget reduction.
And I use the word consideration. Consideration allows latitude, and that's why I use the word consideration. I didn't say that this was the cut list, but to use this as consideration because they provided it to us as a guideline on what they recommended. And, you know, I understand everyone's hesitations. It's not an easy discussion to have, but I purposely use the word consideration because this is what they provided us. I don't really need to have a discussion about each one of these items. What we need to have a discussion is what the amount's going to look like and whether or not it's going to pass. And that's why I worded it as consideration. So if we could go back to that motion and allow these folks the latitude to begin the staffing based on this, and update us periodically where we're at on the budget, I think that would be a fair way of allowing them to do their job.
Can I add a comment in here? The thing that we have to have direction about, previously when we were reducing staff, we were just cutting X number of positions, that is doable, we get that. But this significant amount of money tied up in transportation is different. And we need to know if the transportation, we can use the word considerations, but we need to know if transportation is in or it's out, because if we take transportation off the table and we're going to have transportation, that's going to translate into 55-ish positions, additional positions. So we need to know if we're going to move forward with transportation in the list. Like, yes, move forward and you can adjust the list as we have different revenue, but transportation is going to be one of the items or it's off the table, and we'll deal with transportation in the spring when we know more and move forward with additional staffing cuts at this time. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I just want everyone to be clear about what we're doing, and if we need additional time, we are happy to have that conversation with you, whatever venue you want to have it, because I want everybody to be understanding, comfortable in the decision that we made, and not confused about it or surprised. Because as was mentioned earlier, the one thing that we hadn't talked about was activity transportation, but I don't know that we've talked about it specifically here, but if we're not providing transportation to students to school, are we going to provide transportation to kids and activities?
Ms. Coe?
I would like to amend the motion and consider to recommend that the administration moves forward with a recommended list focusing on a $9 million reduction.
Is transportation in or out?
Okay, wait a minute, I'm trying to figure this out first. We got a motion, and we got an amendment on the
Okay.
board. So you're gonna amend,
Or I will
why don't
withdraw
you just,
my,
yeah,
I'll
withdraw.
withdraw my amendment.
And I'll withdraw the second on the motion. Keep it.
And now I would like to make an amendment, and my concern goes back to, being conservative in our numbers. So if I don't want a surplus, I know we're gonna take that in mind as we move forward, but my amendment is to consider a reduction of the budget for next year at $9 million, which does include eliminating transportation for the next school year.
Your second to that motion. Discussion. Ms. McElroy.
So just quickly with percentages, so at the end of this school year, right now, what is your projection? And we've had another month or it's actually just been a couple weeks, but I just want to clear, I didn't bring all that paperwork with me today, so I'm looking.
Oh, it's 15.7?
The last one I had is 15.9.
15.9.
15.9.
Do you still see that, or do you see that?
Those projections, so that you can understand, those projections included assumptions that are, some of which will be contained in the revised budget, which is the addition of revenue for our transfer program, which has not been in our preliminary budget.
Okay.
So we included that, and we are doing some of the right sizing around our salary budget, which typically will accrue at the end of the fiscal year. We're trying to be better anticipating that. That was in that projection. So I don't have any better information at this point that we will be substantially better than 15.9% fund balance. That is taking into account some of the major swings that we typically see.
So with you might have to do a little adding on top of your head, because you just changed the motion, but we can start out, so adding say if we went 12 million and put that 12 million back in, what would that percentage look like with the balance? Because it was 9.2, so what is adding that 12 million back in, what does that percentage go to? Sorry.
If you'll give me a moment.
I give you a moment. And then maybe the 9 million as well.
Just a clarification on board policy, I believe, it is 15% where we have to have a plan to get back to 15%. Within 2 years.
Okay, so you're still calculating. I need you to read back the amended motion, because that's the one we're gonna vote on first.
The amended motion is to consider the reduction budget for 2016-17 of $9 million, which does include eliminating transportation for the next year.
And the reduction budget would be this document right here. Okay.
Not to the 11.8, all the stuff on
Right.
that, their discretion,
Okay.
based on district needs.
And that will include activity transportation.
That's your decision.
Busing, do I have to withdraw and re-amend? Busing of, transportation for students to and from school in the morning and the afternoon. The activities opportunity is at the district's discretion as needed. Do I have to withdraw my first?
Start over.
I withdraw my first and my amendment. I would like to.
Mr. Lang actually made the second.
I withdraw the second.
So I would like to amend the motion now, $9 million transportation for students to and from school only, morning, afternoon, however I need to word that. But that the opportunity for athletics is based on district revenue and opportunity and need.
Is that 3.5 miles is what we're talking about?
3.5 miles.
Okay.
Would that clarify it then?
Yeah,
If I
let's
say
just-
3.5 miles?
Okay, discontinue.
Discontinuing within 3.5 miles.
I second that.
Could you clarify the motion, please?
Any discussion?
Can we just pause for a second? I want to have a discussion with these people about the transportation question, and I want to have us have a discussion before we move on with this vote, okay?
Well, we can call for a 5-minute recess
Yeah,
if
that'd
you'd
be
like.
great. I need to
All
look
right,
something
I'll
up.
entertain a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
By roll call.
Ms. McAvoy?
Aye.
Recess 5 minutes, we'll begin back at 10 o'clock.
No, she didn't do the first one, wasn't all the way up to the microphone when she said it. And I didn't hear the very beginning very well, because she wasn't up to the microphone yet.
Whether or not
I guess they're talking numbers.
that is true.
Someone has the name of the gal over there. I'll get them later. I would like to know what the name of it is. Responses. They actually put that much in about what the patrons actually said. Well, they put
But seriously, we really care about this, and we've never made a decision like that.
So we're just gonna say, we're gonna make like this is like, we're going to leave.
And they said, you know,
More than 5 miles from the high school. My son gets transportation because of his IEP. But we're talking about how big we are, and we have to cut this, and this, and the way of anything within our schools and our teachers, that we will lose our great standing and that we're the best in the state, and our housing values will look what's going to happen to our housing values if there's no transportation. Transportation equals 55 teachers. That's a lot of teachers. It is. I can think of a lot of places that are not within 3.5 miles of one of the schools. I'm within 3.5 miles of 2 middle schools and 1 grade school. You know, what's that going to do to our housing values? I am a half a mile from. There's sidewalks all the way there. Yeah, a half a mile, but not 3.5 miles. They come to 3.5 miles. But we can bring it down if the levy passes. But see, if we don't, in my opinion, if we don't make it say this is going to be everyone's going to pass a levy. Saying we're going to have to cut 10 million, to me 10 million means nothing. To me, it means something to me is we will lose X number of teachers, we will lose no concept
are teachers required to have somebody that go to state competition instead? That requires transportation. She's at Central. You know, but like, does he miss the same at all? But they have a hard She's provided no money to do that. We as parents raise that money every year. I mean, how can you put on a play without buying the play? You can't. Oh my gosh. But there's nothing in the budget already. For a little stipend, which I've been told is not even equivalent to like a sports license. But we as parents, with our money, we provide more of a stipend.
There's not money in the budget for transportation to the state music contest?
Well, if they take all transportation out.
I think that's why they were trying to clarify they're only talking about to and from school.
Yeah. But that's
Which is in their prior discussions. The prior discussions about reducing transportation.
They never talked about the activities.
They never talked about anything but to and from school.
But that is a point. I mean, I have to think about that one.
Well, I think
because there's a lot of kids who I think we keep in school because they could be a part of the sport team.
Well, and some of the music programs.
Well, the music, right? Oh, and art. I mean, that's how we're keeping our kids in school.
And some of the
She's enjoying
all that stuff at Howell, and it was very important.
Very important.
I mean, he played football and tennis and decided he didn't like it, and he went to choir and drama.
That's okay.
You know, and did very well.
But if they would have dropped the drama program?
And I don't think that should. I'm just saying.
No, they're not talking about that. Right. The transportation involved.
Right. But they're talking about if we do anything less in our schools, cut the budget by doing less in our schools, because we're already cut. We cut the budget by doing less in our schools, it will, we're not a devaluation of our homes, and I agree with that. To an extent, but I think the transportation, that's what I was saying, devalue our homes just as much.
Mike, I haven't looked around to see what other districts are doing in our area on transportation. Now, they're not doing the 3.5 mile.
But once we take that away, that's negative. I don't think anybody here have a clue about the negative reaction we get from
See, the kicker is, they say they're going to cut it. If there's not definite plans in place, nobody's going to vote for it again.
There's a way to make it providing this.
Right.
Or there's a threat.
It
sound like a threat.
Well, we don't want the threats because the comments that came out last time, well, they always threaten, it never comes through.
Yeah. Now, you don't put that on the...
No, but you need to say, we want to keep this and it's going to require X number of dollars to keep transportation, X number of dollars to keep this number of teachers.
This is what it's going to cost you to do on it.
Right, right.
But you don't
but you
put
have
that...
to have specifics as to what it's going to cost.
And we didn't do that.
Only to what we heard was threat, and it sounded more like threats.
Well, but even that was at the very last minute.
Yeah, the last
I missed that one.
Very
But
last
August was a stupid time.
You don't put a hammer on the table if you're not going to use it. Or chicken little.
Well, it's what I've learned. My son has autism. Give it to him once, he's going to expect you to give it to him the next time.
It becomes an entitlement.
Well, no, it's like, well, Mom, you didn't make me tie my shoes yesterday. I'm just going to sit here.
until you tumble.
Well, see, actually, that's the discussion I had with his PT this afternoon. He had therapy. It's like, because he's still learning to tie a shoe. He's a 7-year-old. He's doing really good at it. And she goes, do you practice at home? I said, no, we don't even address the issue in the morning. I just tie the shoes because we have to make the school bus. I'm not going to give him the opportunity to say he's not going to do it. You know.
It comes with the torque.
Well, he's to the point that he has to dress himself, but he doesn't have to tie his shoes.
But you had to be consistent.
I have to be consistent, and that's what we have. You know, we have to be consistent. If we say this is what's going, this has to go.
I think the administration left.
Yeah, having to.
Blame her.
She put a wrench in that.
Which way did we go? That's what the discussion is.
Perfectly normal, and evidently there was a big thing about it a year ago, and you can look it up online, and you'll find all the bad stuff, which is very good. 12 of them. So you're a teacher? No. And I'm a parent at the high school. I have 2 at the high school, so I have many classes, many teachers. She teaches Central, what you say? Even though they're doing fine, I like to keep in touch. She loves one of my boys, he might not feel comfortable sleeping or something like and it was high, and if you don't know when it's high, you're going to say it's too
You're probably getting very overwhelmed with me now, but it's like, I've heard our students before, and I got what happened. It's hard to get home.
I heard about it all summer long.
Oh, I didn't.
Every season.
And then they're gonna call you guys and say, okay, I need to see you.
The state's not funding their formula, which is a pretty big problem.
Because everyone is dealing with it.
When students but I could just to go through 2 levels because the first
You know what I'm saying?
Original
Cindy, you ready? Dog goes on the sideline looking for a play to get a touchdown. So flanker right. when you reduce the transportation to 3.5 miles and you pass a tax increase, or you don't pass a tax increase. Now let's say you make the decision to reduce it. Once you make the decision to reduce the transportation to 3.5 miles, you've made that decision as a board. So in order for the students that are less than a mile to be retransported, that it would take another ballot initiative to bring them students back into the fold. And that's roughly about 1,600 students that are less than a mile. So at the advice of council, she recommended that we make the $9 million reduction, or whatever reduction we decide to make, and then decide on your tax levy, and do not take action on that item at this time, to preserve that opportunity for students to ride less than a mile if the levy were to pass. Because if we were to put that language in place, then the students would not be eligible based on a 1978 decision of adding them students into the fold. So, Ms. Cope?
So then I would like to amend the motion.
We don't have motion, no.
Yeah, no motion. I would like to.
Think about it.
I would like to move to cut $9 million from fiscal year 17 budget. Period. Or, I'm sorry, recommended budget reduction considerations.
Well, transportation is listed on there. Because you can't get to $9 million with that number.
I would like to move to cut $9 million budget considerations.
Okay.
Not according to this list, just budget considerations.
You would like for us to come up with a list of budget reductions? Not another list.
Not another list.
Just $9 million, not to include transportation. We're not including transportation.
I am not discussing transportation.
Is there a second?
Could you restate the motion?
I would like to move.
Mrs. Cope?
Yes.
Maybe I can help.
Please do.
I move to direct the administration to plan the fiscal year 17 budget to include $9 million in reductions.
What he said.
Mr. Summer?
Thank you. Just to throw some more confusion in the entire picture. When it comes to transportation, and this may not be a very popular idea, but I've always taken the position we've got to look at all opportunities. Would it be possible to create a transportation donut so that we include students less than a mile, because we're going by their houses anyway? We don't get charged extra for picking them up based upon the routes, and then that way we do not have to worry down the road about reinstating transportation for those students within a mile. So if we get to the point that we might have to possibly cut transportation, we would only eliminate the students between 1 mile and 3.5 miles. So we still follow the state statute of students greater than 3.5 mile. We've never eliminated the students less than a mile. Therefore, we would not have to ask for a 2/3 vote down the road to reinstate that. And that also might then work into getting us closer to that $9 million amount. I don't know if that's even a possibility, or if I'm just talking to myself up here.
Explain what a donut means to me, because that's what I'm confused about.
Let's use some visuals. Inside here are any students that live within a mile of the school. We will still pick them up because the buses are going by there anyway. Anybody on the outside lives more than 3.5 miles away from the school, and therefore by state statute, we are required to pick them up. If we have to cut transportation, it would only be for those students between a mile and 3.5 miles.
closest to school will be the ones transporting.
Because you're going by their house anyway.
But we're going by the other
Going
one's house.
by all the other ones as well. I understand it's an opportunity and a point of discussion, but I think it would be very hard for our community to understand. But we'll do what,
It's also going to be very hard to explain why the kids that live 3.4 miles aren't getting picked up, even though we're going by their house too, so.
state statute.
I don't know. Something to ponder.
Ms. McAvoy.
Back to my question, a long time ago, were you able to do that? Correct, but this is about that, because I want to know if that 9 million, what is that percentage?
Well,
What's the 12?
I'll get the 9 million, but we can at least start with the 12 million, which that was the first question.
Correct.
And so $12 million brings us to cutting $12 million from the projected expenditures for next year would bring us to 16% fund balance. And so $9 million would be something less than that.
13. 6.
14.1.
So, question. The reason for moving forward with planning is to develop a budget and begin to staff up for next year. So, if transportation is not included in that number, what is included in that number, and what does that look like? Because that, to me, is more teachers and staff.
That is correct. It would be that list, and we're only going to reduce to 9 million, right? So we're gonna take $3 million off it, so we're only cutting 22 more?
Yeah, probably, so the difference of 3 million, probably more like, 36. Oh, 2 million, it's a 2 million difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Additional 22 staff.
No, we're taking 5 million, if bus transportation is off the table, we're taking 5 million away, we're essentially adding 2 million back, so the difference is 3 million, so we're talking somewhere in the range of 36 staff.
Additional.
Yes, in addition to what's on the list already.
So would that be support staff, certified staff?
It would be some combination, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I have a question that's not the intent of my motion. The intent of my motion is to give you direction to continue with a staffing plan that allows us to make a decision about transportation in the future. The intent of my motion is not to increase the number of staff cut. So if I am stating this wrong, I need to restate it yet again. The intent of my motion, maybe I have to say, move to reduce the budget by $4 million, and a decision on transportation made at a later date. Because I don't want to take that off the table for next year. I want that option, but I do not want to get us caught in the state statute that we have to follow. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay. I don't want to take us in a wrong direction. So do I need to withdraw my motion again? Okay. Does anyone else want to take a stand at this? That's fine.
So you're looking to make a reduction of not 9 million, but 6.8,
600.
so 7 million.
4 million, right? Or am I missing that?
We're looking at it this way, Mr. Chairman. If the gap to close the deficit next year is 11.8.
6.8 would be the difference.
5 million away from that, that leaves us 6.8. Essentially what we're doing is we're closing the gap by 6.8. We're holding $5 million of closing that gap in abeyance until a future date when a decision might be made to close that gap by doing something like eliminating transportation.
Great, but I don't want to work off the 11.8 million. I want to work off my recommendation of the 9 million. So then, because I think we conservatively estimate things, so I'd like to use 9 million as this bottom line here. So removing the 5 million. So my recommendation then is cutting $4 million. Is that? I hope so, because I think we're conservative.
So what number does that bring us to? Percentage of balances at that point?
Yeah, I'll tell you just a moment.
Nobody seconded anything yet.
I think, Mr. LaFawn, that's going to bring us closer to 11.8% fund balance. So we were at 16 to 14 to 12.
Okay, but we have some latitude there.
That's allowing some latitude.
Latitude to make decisions.
And the board policy is that if it drops below 50%, we have to have a plan in place. And so we have time to develop that plan for what that would be to store. There are a variety of things.
Okay, so we don't have a motion again.
Well, we have the motion that Ms. Cope made and she withdrew, but we don't have a second on the withdrawal.
I don't think anybody seconded actually the stumbling mess that I've made.
Okay, so the
So I would make a motion.
number is?
Yet again, I move I would direct the administration to consider $4 million in budget cuts for the fiscal 17 school year. Is it 16, 17 school year? Did I say that? 16, fiscal year 17?
We're with you.
Okay. Is the board with me? They understand my motion? Because I don't.
Second.
And just so that I know we've had a lot of conversation, I don't want people to get lost. That will be fewer staffing reductions than what we have looked at in prior iterations of information shared with the board. As long as I want to make sure that the board understands that will be the impact of that. And we can certainly do that. We'll be happy to.
That is my intention.
Because right now we have $345.3 million in staffing reductions. And we're only going to cut a total of $4 million. Right.
That is my intention.
Okay. I don't see any more lights. One more time, read it.
I move to direct the administration to consider $4 million in budget cuts for the 2016-2017 school year.
By roll call.
Ms. McAvoy?
Aye. Aye. Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 6-1. Okay.
So, can I ask a question? Just want a clarification. So, we will not be bringing anything back. We're just going to work from these numbers and we'll go through the staffing and budget process per normal, no more lists or anything. We're just going to work from the new number. Right. Perfect.
You get direction now. That was the intent. That's about it for tonight.
What?
April 2016 ballot measure operating tax increase. did pretty good throwing amounts out there just a minute ago. I don't think we need to call for any timeouts, but I'm open for discussion on the amount. A motion to move forward with a ballot initiative that will be put before the voters on April 5th. So that the preparation can begin. It's open mic time. Mr. Summer.
Thank you. I think this is, once again, one of those important decisions that we make as a member of the Board of Education. And I think last time, I don't know if we had enough dialogue, enough preparation, enough study to know, is 90 cents a good number? Is 0 a good number? Is the number somewhere in between? I think this is a conversation I'd like to have with my fellow board members when we're much fresher and have had time to sit down with our chief financial officer. We don't have to make a decision today. In my mind, we still have 90 days to decide. I just don't want to jump at an amount, not knowing if it's the right amount, if it's a higher number, if it's a low number. So obviously we want to have other input, but I don't think I've got anything new information I can decide this evening what is, if any, the correct amount.
Ms. Coe?
I think it's important to get our community input as well, and I don't think I have new information from the community in this area as well. If 90 cents wasn't the right amount, if August wasn't the right amount, or what wasn't the right time, I think we need some time to get some community involvement, community input.
Ms. Bice?
So, both those points are very good, and I agree with them, but when and how are we going to start that process? I know we've had, there was a community meeting, but I don't think we need to delay that process of, we talk about strategic planning, how are we strategically going to get that information? And one thing I'd like to have also is really the same thing that Kevin gave us before, which was actually pretty comprehensive. He gave us a budget, he gave us what it looked like and what potential cuts could be versus, I think it was 4 different options, correct? And we did have, in my mind, a comprehensive conversation about what that would look like and what that meant. What we did not do is involve stakeholders outside of that work session who were in the audience, and I think there might have been one. So, my question is, if we're gonna think about this strategically, I don't wanna put it off till the next. Say we have 90 days, we need to be involving and gaining that information from stakeholders really soon, before the 90 days, like right now.
Well, and, I'm gonna reiterate my point that I made at the last meeting when we voted to put a tax increase on the ballot, and it went 4-3, approved, was I don't think we've had enough time to go out and communicate to people to see whether or not they would support a tax increase at this time. And so, you talk about putting the cart before the horse, that in a sense is putting the cart before the horse. You haven't really gone out and had that discussion and met with people and to see whether or not there is support for it after they, just failed it in August. And I realize that we need revenues, but we're beyond that point as a board. It's not probably what the community would like to see as a 4-3 vote. So, I think we have to, have maybe a work session and sit down, as Ms. McAvoy described, and have a discussion about what do we want our school district to look like? How do we attain what we'd like to attain, and what information do we have available to us to make an informed decision to provide the necessary revenues to keep the school district in its present form. And somehow, if you look at communities like Ladue and Clayton, they've been able to maintain excellent property values despite the surrounding areas that are very close to them. U City, they have a lot of issues, and they're on the border of Clayton. Ladue's right there. We don't want to be another Melville. And, you know, we need to figure out what this community is willing to support, because your school district is the strength of your community. Living in Ladue is all about the school district. Ask anybody that lives in Ladue. Ask anybody in Clayton what it's about. It's about the school district. It's the school system. And we need to make sure that we make a decision that certainly involves our constituents. Now, I've spent a considerable amount of time since the election on my own, talking and visiting with people. There's not a whole lot of support right now, so we've got a whole lot of work to do. And to continue to delay our decision on well, I guess to prematurely make a decision on putting a ballot in April without first going out and talking to the community is you know, you're playing with fire. I put the work into it. I think several board members did. We didn't have full board participating. We don't have committee members jumping on board right now. So it's gonna take a lot of work and take an uprising to get this done. And the longer you put off this decision, the longer you're gonna have to communicate with the general public. So I would like to maintain our community, and we'll do everything in my power to do that, as long as this board is in agreement on the amount. I don't think that we can go back out for a tax increase that is not supported by all 7 members of this board. We are the representatives of the community that elect us, and so if we can't come to an agreement there, then my suggestion would be consider another date. But I think you have to start with the community. The community is the most important thing. Our opinion, my opinion, does not matter. I'm one voter. What matters is 12,000 other people out there. And that's who we've got to get in front of. And I'm willing to put the work in to do that. So, I'm okay with delaying this vote. But I would like a firm date on when the board would like to have a work session to hash this out, so we can get down the road and and start making some decisions about the future of Francis Howell. So, if you want to put a work session on in November to have this discussion, I don't think waiting 90 days is the answer. I think you have to get out in front. If you're going to do this in April and you don't know what you're asking for, you can't go out and ask for something you don't know what you're going to get. So, is everybody open to a work session in April to have that discussion? I'm sorry, November. I'm already on vacation. Ms. McElroy.
I'd like to have a work session on the 22nd, actually, this month, to help develop a strategy on how we get community people involved, so that we then can make an informed vote of, then have a discussion about the amounts. But I think we need to develop that strategy first. And I want to get that amount down as soon as possible, but last running, doing that in one board meeting, doing that in a weekend, and having another board meeting. We need to be fresh. We need to be having our mind focused only on that, and maybe even having a facilitator help us look at our problems. Mary is a great person, and I know Connie Buckman is a great facilitator as well. Or if we want to bring someone in, just so that they can help us focus and not get off task of what we're trying to get through. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so who's available on the 22nd?
I'm not going to be here.
I'm not going to be here either. I'm out of town for 2 weeks, starting tomorrow. So are we looking at November? So Superintendent's not going to be here. I won't be here. Sam won't be here. Is it?
There's another Thursday in October, the 29th.
I believe the majority of the board will be at the MSP regional meeting that evening.
Do we have any options other than Thursday? So I do agree that I've been talking about how community said we failed with communication. We have to have a strong communication plan, and we need the feedback from the community before we can set that amount.
Yeah.
So I want to do that as soon as possible, so we can get a strategy, we can act upon the strategy, and then we can make a decision. Is there options other than Thursdays?
Well, I guess I would like to understand who's going to do the work.
That's what we have to figure out. That's the whole point of the meeting.
Okay. So that's first and foremost, in my opinion, is you got to find out who's going to do the work, because the work is endless, and it requires a lot of people, more people than we had during the last campaign. So if that's the meeting for that, then I would suggest contact with folks on the FHSD team and those folks that were interested in helping, and bring those to the meeting as well. Make it more of a not so much of a board meeting, but an informational meeting amongst the community. Sure we can. We posted that meeting before.
No, I think we need a board strategy first to then talk how are we going to go about it. Because it's not just about just FHSD team, sorry. It's not just about FHSD team, it's about more than that. So I think we need a strategy first, how we're going to deliver this out, who's going to go where, how, all of us, 4 meetings, 2 meetings, what is that? And then say, okay, by this time, this is when we're gonna put it on the board meeting.
Well, Ms. McWay, I would encourage you, if you would like, maybe Ms. Cove can put an outline together for that meeting, have an agenda available for the board, and tell us what you'd like to talk about and do, and we'll put that on the agenda.
Cindy has something.
Yeah. On that note, for 2 things. First of all, we are going to be here for negotiation training on the 5th, so that could be an option because we're all going to be here for that potentially, so we can meet after that.
Right.
On a second note, one thing I would like on the agenda, and I don't know if it's something we can even ask the cabinet to look into, but I read a lot and studied a lot about these things as far as school districts bringing in individuals to strategize. And you talked about facilitator, I'm talking about more than that. I'm talking about somebody that's going to, how much would that cost? There are groups out there that will actually basically run the campaign. They will do a lot of the legwork that we were not able to do the first time. I don't know what the cost of those types of entities are, and I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm just suggesting I'd like to have more information about the work that they do and the cost cost of something like that. And if we could have that information brought to that work session, I think that would be very helpful. So, you know, who are they? What services could they provide us? And how much would it cost? Thanks.
Let's go.
So I think we had that this last time, we used a company to help us. So, no, they helped with the campaign as well. And I know there's other people that can speak more on that than I can.
Well, I'm talking about more than just that. I mean, I think there's a range of services and I'm not sure that we fulfilled the whole entire range. So,
And just keep in mind, we need to be cautious. We, you know, obviously cannot be a firm to affirmatively support any campaign we bring forward. It has to be informational, educational purposes only. So, I caution us as we go forward with that endeavor.
so we know what's out there.
So, I'm hearing a work session, with no action. And you guys are gonna put a agenda together and it'll be sometime in November, early November, or late October.
So I concur with the need for speed. So we can, but I do feel it's very important to get the community involved. So I would like to look at some options in October, and if we have to roll to November 5th, then we can.
Okay.
But I'd like to try to see if we have something earlier. You think we can put it together?
I'm back on the 26th of October.
So then I guess it's the 5th of November.
26th is a Monday.
There's a whole week there.
The 26th is a Monday.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah.
None of those days are available? Okay. So let's go to the first week of November.
So can we follow along, the November 5th meeting if we're all here for that?
Mm-hmm.
Post-training,
I would have started at 6.
and it lasts about an hour, we assume?
Start changing early, you could change the start time to that.
It'll last more than an hour.
Yeah. At least an hour and a half to 2.
We're gonna do more than we did last year, but not as much as we did.
Can we start earlier?
That'd be my vote.
We were just considering, may not be too late to change the start time of that meeting, say a half hour earlier to allow us to be finished so that we could get started on this work early.
How early could the board come on that day? How was that early? Noon?
I'm flexible.
How early can you all start? Did you meet at 4? 4:30? Because we'll have, they'll be teaching.
I just have to make sure that my team is on at school.
Oh, late school.
But
What's
I don't-
Fairmont?
No, they're not.
Fairmont's early.
So it's early childhood, we probably can. Yeah.
4:30? 4:45?
Sure, 4:30.
4:30, the board meeting, 4:30?
Yes.
Start to do the training? Okay.
What about the other employee groups?
We'll have to go to the side of HEA, so we'll need to check.
So my question is this an all-encompassing meeting or is this just a board strategy meeting? Are you inviting the other groups that, is this just board session? question is you guys wanted to bring people together that could potentially get input from the community. So the only way to do that is to invite the community in for that meeting. So it could be a posted meeting, similar to what we had at Howell, and begin that process, but have an agenda and work through the agenda. Not make a decision on the amount, but just formally start working with some of the community and get some ideas on who's going to help where and how you're going to organize that opportunity, because you're telling me you want to get communication out, and the only way to get communication out is to bring people in. So is that what we're trying to do at this meeting, and what are we trying to accomplish?
I think we're trying to figure out our board strategy. We have to know what we're doing before we can go tell the community what we would like to do and how we want them to help. I think we need to be on the same page before we ask anybody to come into our cluster.
So what I'm hearing you say is you would like to have a meeting with the board in a work session format, and the board will determine how do we want to go out and meet with the community. What are the things that we want to do in order to engage our community? We'll make the decision will be made on how we're going to go out and engage the community and get their input, and we'll establish a timeline in which that input is going to be made, and then we'll execute that plan of getting the input, and we can make a decision then on the amount.
Because right now we're not very good at getting people to come to a meeting, so we need to figure out how we're going to
Go to them.
We need to go to them instead of them coming.
Where
We
they
need to-
are.
Right, we need to meet them where they are, and how are we going to do that? And because that is what we're not doing well, is communicating and having, come to our meeting. Okay, well, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't, so I think that's where we need to have that dialogue.
So the strategy would be to, if I'm hearing right from Ms. McAvoy, the strategy would be to talk to the school buildings and look at opportunities that we can have within their environment when they have parents in the buildings. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that's the point of discussion, if that's something that we would want to do.
What would you like the administration to prepare for this?
I think we need a little bit of time, since we've just been charged with the outline, I need
Okay.
some time to absorb that.
All right, so this meeting is taking place on what date?
November 5th at 4.
November 5th.
No, 5:30. 5:45.
You guys are gonna put an agenda out.
It's gonna be negotiations, and then starting at 5:45, we'll have a board meeting, work session to talk about this, how we're gonna move forward with engaging with the community. And then we will try to make a decision then we'll be trying to engage with the community during November and make a decision in December.
Well, I think that's what we discussed at that meeting, that timeline. What do we do?
And also for the record, because my daughter's always been in activities where I have to provide transportation, I may or may not have to leave. I may or may not have to leave to deal with my daughter's activities that night. Because if you didn't hear me, I've always had to provide my daughter's transportation to activities. So I'm just letting you know, I'll be there, I'll be in negotiations, and may, if I can't figure something out, have to leave the work session. I guess I could try to come back.
Okay, so there's my,
Can I make one comment?
yes.
Just, and I don't know if you can take it now or at that meeting, but so the board can be thinking about it. If we have an amount decided before we bring the staffing plan, I'd still like to bring staffing plan A and staffing plan B. But it's gonna be difficult to do until we know an amount.
So what would be your preference? Timeline-wise?
Tonight. No,
Okay, can you give a projected staffing?
we plan to bring
Based
the
on what you've
staffing
heard
plan.
tonight?
Plan to bring the staffing plan a work session in December, ask the board to approve it in January. I would like to stay to that timeline, if at all possible. I mean, I think we could go to a timeline February, but I would rather have the earlier timeline, because we will have some people in the status quo plan that we're gonna have to communicate with about, job elimination, and I would like to give them as early as notice as possible.
All right, so we'll add, November 4th, November 5th to the meeting list, but that's not on our list, but, we have one other item, second semester busing, information only, so we'll move on to strategic planning. And it's, policy review, first reading. And that will be in the, next meeting, in consent agenda. And we're on 2015, 2016 strategic goals, Dr. Sloan.
Yes, we bring forward the goals of each of the strategic committees annually, and we usually run these through our steering committee on the strategic plan we're currently in. We did not have that meeting this year because we had to have a special meeting regarding the tax levy failure, and so we did send these goals out to the steering committee and asked for input. And they have all been vetted through the strategic committees, and so without a lot of elaboration, those goals are presented there for you. One goal for each one of our strategic committees, which we have done every year, and then we report out the progress of those goals in January and then again in June. And this will be the last set of goals from this strategic plan.
So then item number C would be to have a timeline to begin the next process, and I think that you had mentioned hopefully we'll bring the next superintendent into the fold at that time.
Yeah, we have a on the 8 on 9B, we have a motion there, we need to approve those strategic goals, and then C is about the strategic plan.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2015 strategic planning goals as presented. Is there any discussion, board? Hearing none, by roll call.
Fiscal?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. Now to roll out the next one,
Yeah, and we don't have to have this discussion tonight, Mr. LaFawn, but we are at some point, and maybe be part of the discussion that we have, as we're talking about, in this work session that we're talking about. But we are coming to the end, as I just said, we're in the last year of our strategic plan. And for those who are new, we went through a strategic plan through the year of 2006 to 11 that Dr. Doyle and Lindenwood assisted us with. And in the current strategic plan that we are in, Executive Cabinet executed that plan, the writing of it with committees. And we followed basically the same process that Dr. Doyle and Lindenwood had assisted us with. But I think the question before us now is, we're going to hire a new superintendent. Would you like the new superintendent to be part of a plan that he or she, is their plan? And do we want to get an outside entity to help us with the strategic planning process? Are we at that point as a school district that we would like to have some outside help in order to, or assistance? I think you reach that point as an organization that you need somebody from the outside to look in who can be more objective about what you're doing. But again, we don't have to make that decision tonight. We can kick the can down the road a little bit with this one, given the late hour. And we can add it as part of the discussion, maybe that we're going to have in the November 5th work session.
I'm good with.
It's an important decision, but.
Right, no question about it. Ms. Weiss?
Would it be out of line to, along with that, I'm somebody that believes that you need to have input from the person who's going to be coming in as the leader. You don't set up things and then, So there's just the conversation about what that process is going to look like. We haven't had that yet.
Right.
So we need to probably add that to that agenda, because the process of searching for a superintendent.
That's on tonight.
It's on the agenda. It's next up.
But
tonight on that, or we're just talking about it?
You have the option to.
It's optional. It's optional. It's next item.
Just on the strategic planning item, we are going to, through our current strategic committees, we're going to ask them, given what they know about 21st century learning, where we are as a school district, given our financial situation, what do they see as focus areas for the next 5 years? We're going to get that input from the strategic committees. We're going to send it out to the, where you can correct me where I get off track here, kind of leading it forward. And send it out to the larger community to get some feedback, as we did last time, do a survey, and then I think also to some groups that have been identified through your community relations committee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we'll get some general ideas, but again, for somebody to put all that together, and you know, don't always have the opportunity to have a superintendent to be part of the new strategic planning, but we have that opportunity in front of us, and I think it would be advantageous for that person to be part of how we're going to move forward as a school district, because we do have that opportunity. So I think that is the discussion that we can have. How do we want us to bring some names, numbers forward, or just talk about it first and then bring some information forward in a following meeting? Because this plan that we're currently in goes through November, but you know, we're going to be pretty involved in a tax levy hopefully here soon. So maybe we should have some conversation about it first at the next session.
I think it needs to be coordinated with whatever we're gonna do with the superintendent search. Completely coordinated.
Right. So we'll bring it forward again.
Seriously.
So whoever we hire as a search firm is maybe part of the conversation with them.
That was my point.
At MSBA last weekend, I actually went to several strategic planning sessions of people explaining how they did it and stuff. So I have some ideas or some things, different models that people have used and how they've done that. So I think it's advantageous for us to have that conversation on how we want to go about this next one.
Do you have examples of PowerPoint presentations you can send out?
We can get them online through MSBA, all the ones that were
Okay.
just go through.
We'll try to find that, because all the presentations they do there are posted online, so we'll try to find those and send those out to the board and everyone.
And if by chance something's not there, then I'll tell you specifically which ones.
Okay. Next item is open up negotiations. We need a motion to open up negotiations for the 2016-2017 school year with all employee groups as of October 8th, 2015, as presented. I got two movers.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Ms. McAvoy, second by Mr. Summer. Any discussions about opening up negotiations? Hearing none, by roll call.
Ms. Ferguson?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. Item number 9E is to make a recommendation to enter into a contract with a search firm. And there's several there that are listed.
a tax increase, I think we're gonna be very busy, so I think it would be beneficial to have some help doing this.
Sure.
That's all I'm bringing forward, is that I think we need some help to accomplish this.
Well, in looking at this, looking at some of the search firms, I do a hesitation when I see 8% of the candidate's first year salary. And that's what MSBA is looking for. That tells me that they want to jack the price up of a superintendent and to jack their fee up. You know, and I think if you're going to provide a service to somebody, you provide a service to them at your fee, and not based on what the potential candidate should get. So I would just I would not use MSBA for that reason. I don't know anything about these firms. I didn't do any research. If anybody has any input, I'm open to it.
Mr. LaFawn, we do have the opportunity to invite, if the board doesn't want to make the decision tonight, we do have the opportunity. I know we've belabored some very important discussion, you know, and it was very important, and we need to give the appropriate time to it. And if we need to delay this, and if the board would like to have these people in and talk to them, you know, that's certainly a possibility as well.
Let's see where it's further. The window closes.
Yeah, and like, maybe that would be nice too, but I don't know if we have the time to. I think my questions are about some of these are, I would like to stay in state, and some of these are from out of state. I'm sure they can do whatever we ask them to do, but due to Missouri laws and Missouri issues and things, and I'd like to stick very close to Missouri. I mean, that's just me though. So I hesitate on some of the firms from out of state. But then when I look at the people in state, another in state, yes, his base fee is 1/3 and not 8%. So I'm like, okay, well that's a lot. I mean, we don't know what that's going to be, and I hesitate making that decision as well. So I don't. And then the other St. Louis one, no proposal received. So I'm kind
MSBA
of at a loss, not knowing what these firms are.
MSBA was never like this before. They charge us a flat fee, and then they charge us for some travel expenses.
If you did a calculation, I did the calculation, the fee would work out, assuming a similar level of compensation, and it would be similar to what the board paid previously to MSBA for that service.
Can we negotiate 16,000?
I would be happy to go back and talk to them. I would also say that it's not, I tried to provide some information in the detail sheets on each, but most of the firms have someone who is locally connected, who is working as a consultant, even though the firm itself is headquartered elsewhere. So there are Missouri people who are connected with these firms who will be assisting with the search. So the firm itself is not based in St. Louis, they have local.
And that's how banking recruiters are. They're all over the state, but they're out of Wisconsin. So, but there's people locally that get in contact with them. So, I would rather know what my fee is going to be rather than a percentage.
You have more extensive documents on all these people, right, Kevin?
Yes.
So
Who do you guys recommend? Have you thought about it?
We haven't had a discussion about it.
Okay.
I have personal knowledge of some of the people in some of these groups, and I mean, I would like the opportunity to share my thoughts, and I don't know if now's appropriate.
It is.
Specifically.
Well, if you don't think they're a firm that you would recommend to hire a superintendent, then we certainly do want to know about that.
Or discuss the ones you think are positive instead of publicly denouncing someone. But you can speak positively.
Prefer over.
Well, I would speak positively for McPherson and Jacobson. Very much so.
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak positively about?
I'm trying to get them straight here so I don't say the wrong thing.
Yes, how it went the last 2 times that we used MSBA? Anyone on the board at that time? How did it go?
We used them once.
Twice.
Oh, we actually did use them twice. Their fee was different.
But to be fair, I don't think their fee has changed substantially.
It's just structured differently.
It's structured differently.
And I think it's structured differently to help the smaller school districts that have a lower paying superintendent. Some of the rural districts, superintendent don't even make $100,000 a year, so that's why they changed the structure fee.
So how did it go?
I think they have successful superintendents to run, in my opinion.
Do you think those candidates came forward based on the support from MSBA? I just say we used a company recently for our survey and for our informational campaign. After reviewing those, there's some things that I would have desired out of that opportunity. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with this decision and that if we're going to hire a firm, that they're going to do the work that we really need them to do to accomplish it.
Well, one thing I experienced in the last superintendent search was there was a big drop off in talent in the one we chose. Big drop. So it's hard for me to gauge what level of service they provide because it wasn't even close. As far as the candidates came forward, in fact, you don't want to talk about candidates, but some of the candidates I'm like, okay, it wasn't, to me it was a process that was very eye-opening. I think the first time I went through it, I think that they provided more of a service to us because we were looking for a certain type of candidate to lead the school district. So we had, they provided a good service for us there. We already knew what we wanted after that. So the candidate pool really fell off quite a bit in the second round, in my opinion. Mike can probably shed some light on that, but the choices were clear. So I'm fine with MSBA. I just would rather have a flat fee if we can negotiate that.
I don't see any problem with getting a flat fee.
Okay. Not to exceed 16,000. Well, plus expenditures.
Do we have any references from other school districts that have recently gone through this process?
I believe, and maybe Dr. Weiss knows, but I believe that Webster is using McPherson for their superintendent. I believe that's right.
And I'm basing my judgments more on who's on the team as opposed to, I'm looking at the cost, there's no doubt, but my knowledge of the people who are serving on the team. And I know at least one person on every team, if not 2.
Okay. Well, if you're highly recommending them, I'm okay with it. The board's okay with it.
I think there's, in my opinion, there's 3 viable options.
This is just a suggestion. You all are coming in early for a meeting on November 5th. You could come an hour earlier or an hour and a half earlier. You just come spend the day with us. We could give everybody a 30-minute interview if you want wanna select 3 firms to come in?
No,
and
we do
apply?
have jobs outside
Yeah,
of
I
this
know.
job.
I mean, that's really what I wanted to suggest before, that's what I was suggesting. There was too much information. I had no idea that we were gonna plan on making a selection tonight, because there's too much to talk about.
Okay.
And that's why I said what I said prior to, and I was a little bit surprised that we're making a decision now. I mean, we could talk about
Can we
this
allot
now.
20 minutes for each group to give a presentation of the board and take 1 hour to do that and try to make that decision?
I'll weigh in with a couple of things. Probably a good idea to have some interviews with firms. There are several board members who've not been through the process. This is a pretty momentous decision, and you ought to feel comfortable with the people who are guiding you through that. I would also say I think it's important to have a firm to assist you with that, because it's very difficult for some, I'll just speak personally. I would be glad to help the board do that, but I don't know if it's appropriate that I guide you in hiring my boss. Just to be honest.
Point taken.
The other thing I'd say though is that, in fairness to the firms, I would find it very difficult to make any kind of a reasonable presentation in 20 minutes. We asked our students to, we had a presentation tonight about best practices, and kids came and talked to us for ad camp, and we probably spent, I didn't time it, but probably spent a little bit more than 20 minutes, and that time flew by. And you're trying to discern whether firm A, B, or C. So I don't need to make a commitment.
Is it 30 then?
Yeah, I think if you allow them 30 minutes, to speak, but structured it such that if the board had questions, you didn't have them bumping up against each other, or you didn't have any time to do that.
So we probably do it in 30-minute presentation, 15-minute
Yeah.
question, and then have them staggered like that. I don't know what time you guys will get here, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. But you'd have to, we're coming at what time now for negotiations? 4:30.
Well, there's another way to skin this cat. Everyone's been through this process. If there are certain board members that want to be involved in this during the day and they have some time, I don't know that all 7 of us need to be in that process to pick who's going to do that. So if there are people that want to volunteer to do that, and you can invite them into the district, score them, and give a recommendation for it, I'm fine with that too. Especially for those that have not been through the process, like Amy and Cindy, Chad.
So far I have no appointments earlier in the day, so I'm free that day.
So can you guys coordinate your calendars and then come back to the board with a recommendation, just like we asked the superintendent and then staff too, so that it maybe does involve everybody? I mean, shared decision making.
So you're saying whoever can go come that day to see presentations, see the presentations, and then we will bring a recommendation.
It could be next week. I'm just
Oh.
saying, whenever you guys can coordinate your schedules, and then we can make a decision sooner.
I'd rather just be here on the 5th, make it a day.
Oh, God.
With whoever can make it, but I'm just saying I can be
Okay.
available.
So we're gonna have to allow 3 hours for interviews. If we're gonna, by the time we get 30 minutes, ask some questions, take a break, regroup, so it'll be an hour per. We're starting at 4:30 for the negotiations, so 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock for negotiations?
No, 1 o'clock for.
1 o'clock for
For those that are doing the superintendent search.
Yes.
on the 5th. So those who want to be part of selecting the firm for the superintendent search will come at 1 o'clock on November the 5th and interview. And that, we're not involved in that.
I would probably sit in just so that I could help
Yeah,
listen to the conversation.
And then we will start negotiations at 4:30.
that I have.
And then the work session at what time?
4:30, 5:45 work session.
4:30 to 5:45 is the training, the work session starting at 5:45.
And this is November 5th.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I would suggest that since we're going to have our negotiations, which is closed, but they're going to move to the work session, I would post the meeting as an open meeting with an action item that would give the board the opportunity to select a firm. My concern would be that the later we get started with someone, the later you're in the process of hiring.
Correct.
So if your goal is to be complete, we had a tentative timeline. If the goal is to be complete by the end of January, which may be aggressive, but I wouldn't want to wait until November 19th to hire the firm, because then you're up against the holidays and you really aren't starting until January.
Okay.
That's how I would think of it.
So, action item.
And Dr. Bice, I want to make sure that we're on the same wavelength. We talked about MSBA and McPherson Jacobson. My other choice would have been Ray and Associates. I wasn't sure if that's.
Bottom three. I agree.
Ray and Associates has done a lot of work with St. Louis School District, so they have a familiarity, which would have been, which was how they rose in mine.
Those are my
Were there different thoughts from other board members? I will make contact with those three firms for November the 5th.
So that would be 30 minutes presentation, 30-minute discussion, like we do for interviews.
Probably a
Yes.
30-minute
30,
discussion.
30,
You all
30.
can have 15 minutes to ask questions and interact with them, and then now there's a little bit of space between the end of one and the start of another, if one goes over or whatever. So you have plenty of time to make their presentation complete.
And board members will notify Laura who plans to attend.
And what dates are we going to give them in anticipation for candidates and interviews? Have we decided that?
Well, we haven't decided that yet, but the tentative timeline had the board making the decision at the January meeting, so depending on what firm and what commitments they already have, we're gonna let them kind of set a timeline.
Okay.
And the firms have different approaches to the work, which involves some have a greater, want to have a greater level of community input in terms of the qualities of the next superintendent. And they may have some guidance for the board members as to what the timeline would be.
But our timeline is we'd like to have somebody selected by January, the first meeting in January.
I think that would be, January the 21st or whatever that, whatever that meeting date is, when we would want to get that done.
You're talking about superintendent.
The superintendent.
Yeah, okay.
No, the firm. We're down the creek.
Yeah, I think if that got pushed out till November, not the end of the world, but you're gonna want to get that person, what you wanna do is get the candidate pool going, so that you can, people are looking at jobs now, so you wanna.
Just curious if we got any resumes?
No, but I will tell you that as soon as the article was in the newspaper, the buzz began.
Okay.
There's interest being generated about the opening this.
Okay.
A lot of those.
They might watch this meeting and have second choice. Okay. Positive thinking. Shoot, oh yeah. Papers so messed up.
9-9.
Second.
9-9.
Board community engagement.
Okay, Renee, you're up.
So, I think with the, working session that we're gonna plan, it will be
tablet paper, I wasn't gonna be able to give that information tonight anyway. But it will not be bad news, so I think we'll be okay getting that information from the newspaper.
Superintendent comments.
First of all, I would just like to thank Ms. McAvoy and Ms. Pope for doing their presentation at MSBA. Sorry I wasn't able to be there, but I'm sure it was successful. I know that was a commitment of your time to be able to do that. So thank you for doing that.
Okay, looking at upcoming news. I'm sorry.
I just want to recognize our 2 Emerson Award winners. I'm sorry, I couldn't find my list here. Our 2 Emerson Award winners, we select 2 every year. Sally Black from Henderson Elementary, Matt Murphy from Princeton North, and they will be at a future meeting. Dr. Briggs will bring them and bring some information about them. I also just want to recognize our 3 high schools who've gone through homecoming, and that is a pressure-packed week for teachers and administrators and families, and we got through it. It was just great community events at all 3 schools, just really fun week. So just happy, always happy as an administrator when those have reached conclusion, but nonetheless they were fun for everybody. End of the first quarter, hard to believe that we're 25% of the way through the school year. I know everybody is ready for a break, so I wish all of you and our staff and our families a great fall break, and we'll let that be that tonight.
And with that being said, we have the 19th meeting. Is there any additions to that meeting? Academic workshop.
There's also a calendar.
And
That should be on there.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Calendar's on there, right?
Yes.
Yes. I think if we get through this part we're dealing with right now, we'll be able to do these upcoming meetings.
Can we change the name to academic update or within the calendar workshop?
Sure.
Otherwise we have 2 workshops, right?
You have 2 items in a work session.
Yeah. You can call it whatever you want.
December 17th, any additions or subtractions of that meeting? Okay.
Just real quick, Mr. LaFont, it's not part of our regularly scheduled meeting, probably as a board, we need to start setting aside dates for we will be interviewing these candidates once the pool has been narrowed, so seeing how difficult it is for all of us just to pick a starting time, let alone a date, is something that
I think the probably first identify the, when we get candidates and then begin that process, but maybe we can talk about that at the next meeting. Based on availability. So we're making the decision on November 5th, so maybe at the November 19th meeting, I'm sure that we can talk about that.
Trying to find a timeline that I had, but
I would imagine we begin interviewing candidates sometime in December,
Yes.
early December, and finish up by late December.
well, I think the last time we had them in the middle of January, like it was right before a board meeting that it was approved.
All right, so we had interviews in December. I believe that we narrowed it down to 3 and did all of them in one day, so.
It was a night, I remember, because I just looked at all that. I'll find my information. It was a night, it was a Saturday, and then another day.
So our tentative would be that we would begin interviews January 4th through 11th. Board reviews and interviews candidates.
January 4th through the 11th. Kind of look from that.
that's our tentative thought at this point.
The thing that we don't know is what is that search firm going to want to do? Like, if they want to go out and engage with our schools and the community in some way, well, this timeline, this was just a tentative timeline that I built to try to get it done by January, again, by the beginning of January. So if we would set aside that January 4th through the 11th, that would allow us to get to meet the timeline we have in place. But again, we need to get to November 1st, November 5th first.
Well, there's a screening process